Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today in navigating Latin America US business relations. I'm Pablo García, Chief Innovation Officer and co-founder of Talos. If you don't know us, Talos is a software development company, and we specialize in helping businesses build and grow their technology teams with top-tier talent from Latin America. I'm thrilled today to be here with Ignacio González, better known as Nacho. He's the former Consul of Uruguay in San Francisco and one of the founders of Bluo, a platform dedicated to connecting Latin American companies with opportunities in the United States. Nacho, it's great to have you with us today.
Hey, Pablo, how's it going? Can you hear me well?
Yeah, all good. Actually, it's here, we frozen, but we'll get that sorted.
Yeah.
Great. Quick note for everyone tuning in. If you have any questions during the session, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll set aside some time at the end to answer them and go through them. All right. So already, Nacho, before we dive into the business side of things, let's start with more of a personal journey type of question. So what brought you into diplomacy in the first place? Was there a particular experience or inspiration that led you down that path?
So it's a good question. I guess I always liked geopolitics and diplomacy and history and geography and all those issues. And so I had kind of like a natural tendency towards diplomacy and international affairs. Also, my grandfather, he was an ambassador long time ago. And of course, that kind of like was a natural connection towards this profession, which I did for 15 years. It took me around the world, and it was an amazing experience. But now, I decided to, jump into other stuff, moving from the public sector to the private sector, and I'm super excited about this new adventure.
Yeah, actually, that's pretty interesting. First of all, because not many people get to be the consul, but I think what's most interesting is that change. So let me ask you a bit about that. What's the defining moment that when the penny dropped and made you push or decide that you needed to start Bluo?
So, I've been working in San Francisco for almost 5 years as a consul general of Uruguay, and every single day I was working with software development companies from Uruguay, and it was an amazing experience. First of all, because the companies are, absolutely amazing. Young folks, super great entrepreneurs. Um, that are just like uh, diving into U.S. market, doing great stuff. After 5 years of working, shoulder to shoulder with these companies, helping them to open the U.S. market or reach new clients or make great connections, especially in the Bay Area, I was like, hey, I think that this could be an interesting opportunity to explore. Just stepping out from diplomacy and diving into the private sector and helping these companies, but in a different capacity, not as a civil servant, but as a like a regular citizen, I guess. Uh, and yeah, and and so I started with Bluo like 3 months ago. And so far it's been great, and lots of things to learn that I'm learning, and I'm just helping this software development companies in Latin America, do business in the US.
That's quite interesting. Before we continue, I think your camera is not working. So why don't we try to maybe go ahead, close it and come back in? See, tell me if that's sorted. If not, we'll just keep going.
Just one second.
Well, technology working against us today. Um, we'll give it a couple seconds, see if we can get this sorted. If not, as long as we can all hear what he's saying, which is, I think, is the most important thing, we can keep going. If not, we'll see. But, technology companies having tech issues. I guess that's the limit to that. Are you with us? There you go. Amen. Animated and everything. Look, he meets.
It's just he's not just a voice, right?
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Silly. It's been I did 5 years of working with amazing companies in Uruguay, and it's like I can do something else because as a civil servant, you have certain restrictions that you cannot do. You can you can only do like a certain amount of things. And I thought, hey, I could do this stuff privately and like really be able to help this software development companies. So I thought, okay, let's just dive into something new, and so far it's been super exciting.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then. Do you have a story from when you had your Times Consul that shows the human side of international partnerships?
I don't know. I think it's all about just like making great connections uh, with with folks in the U.S. And amongst companies. I think that's one of the things I've learned in the past years. I often tell this that I would consider myself an introvert. Okay, and I never thought of myself as the guy making connections ever. Because it's just like, it's not me, it's like, I would normally be that person that, yeah, maybe I think I know this guy, but just in case he doesn't know me, I'll just like pretend I haven't seen him. Um, and, but then I realized that I also had this other side of me that really enjoyed making connections. Uh, and, and, I realized how much I was missing out because, you get to like meet like amazing people, hear great stories, uh, like meeting people that takes you to places and discover, amazing companies. Um, so, I think that's like the lesson I've learned from a human side of things. It's how important to build those connections, that will in time allow you to build your network.
Yeah, I think it's you touched on a very interesting point there. That it's not only what you know, what you can do, kind of like your knowledge and your skills. It's also who you know and how do you open those doors. And I think your mission with Bluo is enabling companies to do that, which I'm personally fan of. So,
Yeah, I mean, because yes, of course, it's important to know stuff and know what you're talking about. That's of course crucial. Uh, but it's also about who you know and the timing as well, and learn to just make those connections and build that network. And also something I've discussed with David Kaufman, who's a great friend of mine from San Francisco a few days ago. It's like not just like being on a relation or building relationships where you just like only take, but mostly building relations where you give and give first. That's the thing you got to do. I mean, just like don't think about like, oh, is this person going to bring back something to me at some point? No, just that's not the way to build great connections and a network. It's mostly just like be helpful, seek uh folks that you can help, and just be there, and then eventually things will come in some certain way. But it's all about giving first, and trusting first the other person.
yeah, I like that. It's kind of like just be a human, and you will connect the dots in the future, right? It's very,
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's it's all about that, and people enjoy that because they they don't see you're talking to them just in a pure transactional way.
yeah,
Um,
just,
and at the end of the day, if it's only transactional, you're not gonna enjoy it. You know, there's so much. You'll be doing this for a little time because you're gonna be get exhausted and like from a human perspective, mentally, emotionally, it's not gonna do you well. If you only like value things, so okay, +1, +2, -1, -2,
right.
it's insane. So it's just like give and enjoy giving and you know enjoy the ride in a way.
Yeah. Um, that's great. And on the topic of what you know and what you don't know, what do you think are some common myths or misconceptions that you notice that United States companies have about Latin America, especially the talent, the business culture? What's the reality?
You know what? Of course, I was somehow biased because after working day in day out with companies in Uruguay for the past 5 years, I thought you know and companies in Uruguay working with so many companies from startups to SMBs to enterprise companies. I thought everybody knows like Uruguayan companies, everybody knows Latin American talent, but then you couldn't realize start talking to other folks, and maybe they're not fully aware of the talent there is in Latin America in terms of engineering and software development. Uh, which a few days ago, actually, I was talking to I had a meeting in Los Gatos, and I was talking to a guy, and he was like, "Oh no, we're hiring like a great team from South Asia." And I was like, "Hey, have you ever explored Latin America?" And he was like, "Nope. I've heard about Europe. It's in Europe. I've heard about, of course, South Asia. Um, but I never heard about Latin America." And I don't know, I was like really shocked. Um, and I was like, "Hey, do you have 10 minutes? I can tell you a few great things about talent in Latin America." And he was like totally impressed, to be honest. And then, of course, not just because of the talent, but all the things that naturally Latin America has to offer, like, time zone wise, it's great. This guy, he was working until 2:30 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning for the past 2 years because he was working with a remote team, like time zone difference of 13 hours or so. Um, so yeah, that was real impactful for him.
Hmm. What do you think that happened? What do you think there was some sort of personal bias towards those markets? Is it like a cultural thing in the United States? What happened?
No, I just think that, again, it's all about connections, right? So probably the way I'm not 100% sure, but the way he ended up hiring or not paying attention to Latin America is because either there was someone in his team that was connected to that or those countries, which happens very often. Um, or it could also be that, he asked someone, "Hey, do you have like a great software team uh software development company I can talk to because I'm needing some help." Um and that person probably said, "Hey, I know this guy's like in this country." So I'm very likely he didn't explore like any more uh or or just explore other options. So, it's all about who once there's like this, I always like tell this story about this CEO of this big company in the US. And he told me once, if I'm ever gonna hire someone or work with, companies from some country or whatever, it's like, you know, okay, it's all good what you're gonna tell me, but the first thing I do, I'm gonna ask my fellow CEO, who has he worked with? So, it's all about connections and trusts, and just like finding the way to prove that you're capable, that you're trustworthy, and that you're top of mind of those people as well.
And if you were to like mentor this US-based CEO, right, looking to expand their team into Latin America, what would be the first thing you advise them to focus on?
I mean, first of all, it's okay. What are you looking for? Okay, so why would you like to expand your team and do it remotely? Uh, and if Latin America, it's not the cheapest option. You can go cheaper elsewhere, but then in Latin America, you've got great talent. Uh, and also the time zone. I think that's a massive advantage. And also, cultural affinity. People in Latin America consume a lot. There is lots of cultural connections with the US, so it's easier to have that rapport in a way. And so what I'm thinking, and we if normally talent in Latin America will, like, if you're working with someone, or be it a company or a developer, that person is very likely to tell you, hey, I like your idea. It sounds great, but maybe we can do a few tweaks here and there.
Mm.
Or, I liked what I, think that this is good, but, maybe we should do it. Why don't we try doing it this way? Or just like try a couple of different options. So I guess no, I know people in the US enjoy this, having this critical thinking and not just like do as you're told. So I think that's also a huge asset.
Yeah, there's I've been reading and actually watching YouTube videos of like back in the day, Steve Jobs. And one of the things he says is that the most important thing he did was hiring and focusing and investing a tremendous amount of time into hiring really, really good people. And the conclusion of all that was that he did that because it compounds. You basically hire really good people that make really good business decisions. And then those people hire really good people because, A-class employees hire A-class employees. And I think that's what you're talking about. Like, you are trying to hire people that really add to the business by, thinking differently and challenging your position and your vision and adding to the mindset of the team, right? So I think that's very interesting. And when I was hearing you talking, like I was remembering all that.
Yeah, no, it's all about that, and having folks that can challenge your ideas. You know that I think that's great. That's some because once someone told me, one of the greatest, there is this guy that he's working as a VC in one of the great universities in the Bay Area. And once I asked him, hey, what's the biggest mistakes that often startups do? And he told me, I think it's building in the wrong direction. And this sometimes happens because nobody's there to challenge their views or tell them, hey, this is great, but I think we should go this way or this other way. Or why don't we try something else or a couple of different options? Uh, and if you don't have someone that tells you that in your team, then, you're going to build in the wrong direction. And then you'll realize, yeah, maybe now it's too late to pivot or not. I mean, but you've wasted a lot of time and money.
Yeah, and maybe that's the only chance you get, right? Um,
Yeah, sorry, and let me go back to the misconceptions. I think also uh, that really depends. This really depends on the culture of each company, but um, like having early on a team of developers, not in-house. And some like founders are like, I don't know, because these people at this incubator, they don't like that we hire, they were telling us, or our investors are telling us that we should hire everything in house. So we're a bit uneasy about just hiring folks in an outsourced way. And also that that happens not to be true in a way, because you can hire a great team, and they'll be super excited about working with you. And one of the things I've noticed about the folks that work for this companies in Latin America is that they're super excited about the projects they are working on, and they are passionate, and having this possibility to build a company that might change the world. It's something everybody wants to do, right?
Yeah.
So there's not just the talent, but also the will and the passion to do the work and do it right and go the extra mile.
And yeah, this when you were answering one of the questions, you touched briefly that people think that outsourcing is kind of like cutting costs, or they do it because it's kind of cheaper. Do you think that perception or that mindset holds back U.S. companies?
Because it's cheaper, and so they're kind of like have certain distrust of.
Yeah, because it's kind of like the perception that outsourcing is just the kind
Because it's cheaper, and then it's less quality.
exactly, or
Yeah.
they only do it because of that, but maybe there's more.
I mean, I think the pandemic has proven everyone is that that's not the case. I mean, from like the two main, it's like twofold. First, people can work remotely, and that pandemic has proven that. And now we have whole companies, like Homebase, that are like remote first, and so many others. Or there are companies that are doing like some kind of hybrid scheme, but they're big companies that have proven themselves to work in a great way, in a remote way. So that's one. And then the second one is that you can hire great and talent like anywhere in the world. And that doesn't need to be only US based. And you're a living case of this, right? Because you're working for many US companies, startups, uh and bigger companies. Um and and you do it in a great way. And so are many other Latin American companies doing the same thing. So, you know, I I I don't I think time has proven that, you can hire great talent remotely from anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I believe that. I think that's the best thing that this new remote and post-pandemic world like kind of like teach us, or lead us is that possibility of hiring someone that maybe 5 years ago you would never ever consider. We have hired people in really, really remote areas that they had never had a chance otherwise. And they're working for top technology companies in the United States. We're talking about top 100, Fortune 100, right? And I think that personally, that's exactly why I wake up in the morning every day, like trying to, help these people and these companies find great talent, because it's like very difficult problem to solve, because we have all the struggles, but I think it's when you build and when you allow these companies to create really great teams, and then bring in all these new people and new mind ideas and mindsets. I think it's really fulfilling. I think it's a really cool.
I mean, yeah, and it's not just complicated, it's super expensive as well. Yeah, I mean, like the whole hiring process, if you want to do yourself, and it's like, oh yeah, I want to hire folks like independently in Latin America or elsewhere. It's like, yeah, it's gonna take a while. It's gonna be complicated. So that's why I always recommend going through uh, development agency, because they're gonna solve that problem. They've already vetted like hundreds of developers, and it'll make your life easier. And then one of the great things is that it's not just like the think about hiring, like, for example, a freelancer. It's great, but I think they're lacking in a way, like the culture of the company and a team behind, or having like a CTO in like from your agency that will help you like in anything they need, and just having a team that that you can feel a part of. So I think, and what you mentioned, that's amazing. I mean, the fact that we can do this, that a person that is in a remote area, like in the world, that he or she can work for you know, uh, a Fortune 500 company. It's just like, it's mind blowing, right? Because, it's like technology has advanced so much that today it allows you to do that, and have a great job, uh, a great and well paid job. I mean, it's just as good as it gets.
Yeah, I think the insight is he doesn't have to be a freelancer, right? He's part of your company, he's part of your
Yep.
culture, he's part of the team. And I think that's the switch.
No, totally.
Yeah.
And also, it's just, and no, I sometimes like tend to go and divert towards more uh public policy things and vision things. But the fact that you can have that person staying in his or her country, or his or her town or city, wherever in the world it is, and having a well-paid job, that's amazing. That person doesn't need to move elsewhere to his or her job. It's you know it's great, because he doesn't have to. His family or her family will be there, and his or her friends, and he doesn't need to move to like a bigger city, and he can do or she can do that job from wherever. It's a win-win situation, I think.
Yeah. Uh, Going back a little bit to the business or the relations side of things, what do you think was the biggest challenge you faced personally while connecting Latin American companies with the opportunities in the United States? And if you remember any, how do you solve it?
Anyway, I'm sorry.
If you remember any of these challenges, how do you solve it or how do you overcome it?
I think one of the challenges that some companies have is that they don't. Um, Again, I mean, it's all about building trust and building a network. Uh, of course, if you're if you're an entrepreneur in the US, or you're like CDO of a company in the US, and you have like these guys that uh you know send you an email saying, hey, we're a great company uh from Uruguay or wherever, and we provide software development services, and we're great. The problem they have is that CDO is receiving 100 emails a day of different companies saying the same thing. So one of the main challenges these companies have is how to differentiate themselves. And one of the things I always tell folks is like, travel more often to the US and get to meet these people that you want to engage with. Because not everybody does that. And I know you guys do it very often. And you're super well connected in both New York and in the East Coast and the West Coast. But not many companies do that, or uh, take the time to do it for different reasons. Uh, but I think at the end of the day, that's the only way you can build a network and you can build trust with those folks that you want to engage with. Because I'm sure they're gonna do a great job, but I'm always telling the same thing to folks. Like, imagine you're a Eurowine startup and you want to hire talent somewhere else, and this guy from a remote place in the world sends you an email saying, "Hey, we're the best," and you're like, "Hey, I don't know you, I don't know your culture, I don't, do you know mine?" Right? So it's also that culture affinity that you need to work on, and building that trust and connection in different ways. Um, so summarizing my answer, I think one of the main challenges is how to build that network, how to build trust, how to build that rapport with folks in the US. That once it's done, and once they try working with companies in Uruguay, it's a smooth ride. Because the conversion rate, and once even many folks come to Uruguay to get to know the country, and they love it, and they fall in love with the place. Uh, but I think it's mostly like the building the trusts and those connections.
Yeah. And why do you think US companies hesitate to expand into Latin America, despite this government reputation as a technology hub?
Um, well, there could be, it could be, as I told you before, that some companies are only focused in, okay, how much is this going to cost? Not necessarily considering the quality. If your only interest is, I have to lower my costs, then yeah, probably they're not interested in going to Latin America. But if you're more focused in quality, in having that cultural affinity, uh, the fact that time zone wise, it's it's super comfortable, because you can get like at least 5 hours of overlap a day of work. I think there shouldn't be any other reason not to consider Latin America as a place for it to hire. But if you're only considering costs, yes, I think it's not the place to go. I mean, it's not that it's way more expensive, but it's a bit more expensive. So that's normally what I've heard. And recently, again, I was in a meeting with the CEO of a company, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm hiring this guys in this country X, uh, like for very little money. You know, yes, it's not as good as it could be. Uh, again, I'm working until 3 in the morning. Uh, but now I'm focused in reducing costs. So, I mean, fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, fair enough. But it's probably not the right reason to hire someone, just trying to cut costs.
Yeah, I mean, um, it's at the end of the day, it's not going to take you far. That's
You're not paying the price.
You end up paying the price in some way or another. Be it from exhaustion. Again, having this meetings at crazy times, uh,
Reward.
or just like having to do things twice. Because I've heard this so many times. Like, yeah, uh, yeah, we hired these folks, and it was like disaster. They just this what they did is, we cannot take stock of that and have another company continue to work. It's just like it's gone, it's lost. So we have to start from scratch. And I heard this over and over again, uh, but at the end of the day, you want to hire someone you trust and someone that's competent, because as you said, you're gonna pay it just like one way or another, if it's just for cost reduction.
Um, and in your personal opinion, what's the biggest mistake you've seen companies make when they enter relationships or partnerships with companies with Latin America?
Um, I mean that's a tricky question because from my perspective, I didn't have much that point of view. As I was more in the connecting side of things and not much into hey, where I was not like doing proper business meetings and how they were negotiating their contracts and how and in those meetings once the relationship started. But I guess it's if I have to say something, I guess it's assuming that it needs to be very, very, very cheap because it's not US based.
Right.
And sometimes when you enter negotiation like thinking that, then you can be like, yeah, I don't know. I was kind of like disappointed that it was not as cheap as I thought or something like that. Um, so then they go elsewhere, right? And then they come back, because that's something also I've heard so many times. It's like, yeah, no, we were like the company in Latin America was working for this US company, and they were like, yeah, someday, company in the US told us they're not going to work with us any longer because they're moving to work with some company somewhere else far away. Uh, and And then after a while, they were knocking on our door again saying, "Hey guys, we'd love to reengage with you because we tried something different and it didn't work out as we thought it would." Uh, and yeah, and that's something that happens very often, and I hear over and over again. So that could be one mistake as well, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
What is in your experience, like for instance, uh like something that companies in US are thinking about that cannot be exactly right when they're engaging with companies in Latin America.
So, in my own personal experience, I think not researching enough or thinking or not knowing what you don't know. Um, right now it's kind of easy, kind of like to go on Google and try to find some information about like a local market. But markets are big. People live different in different, different cities, and they study in different universities, and there's nuances in the markets. So you live far away, you're doing your research, but it is very easy to fall into biases, or it's very easy to find information that confirms your bias, right? Because you're not really understanding, or you don't know what you don't know. So when you search with your mindset that says, hey, this is what I know, I want to find this answer, right? And sometimes that leads you to tricky positions. We once had an experience with a funny story with a company that approached us, and we went and they wanted some profiles, some roles. We went to the market, talked to people. It was a very demanded role. So the people were basically saying, hey, we're willing to accept that type of job for this amount of money, right? When we came back to the company said, well, that's actually incredibly high because I found this research online that says that role on average is this amount, right? And that's not how it works. So you really need someone who at least bring, like at the beginning, even at the relationship, fills you in with those little, nudges or bits of information that you're missing. So you start with the right foot. And it's very easy to dismiss a market because you have those experiences. we also like talk to people that maybe had an experience with a freelancer and it wasn't very good. And because of that, they kind of are like, well,
Yep.
maybe not, right? So I think that's the one of the most tricky and recurring errors I see in talking to people and companies.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. That's actually one of the reasons why I also built Bluo, because, the company that I'm building, I'm building a community of software development agencies. And, the thing I want to give is, as you mentioned, companies in the US, unbiased information and access to companies uh, in Latin America. And it's super hard to search the web, exactly what you mentioned. It's like and find unbiased information about these kind of services. It's super hard because everything you find is each company promoting themselves.
Yeah, totally.
So that's one of the reasons I also built this company, because if people reach out to Bluo, they can, I can provide them with like the unbiased information and let them know who they can engage with and who will be the right fit for them. But also one thing that we're mentioning and saying about, like, what's the common mistake about companies in the US when they hire folks, or they want to hire folks from Latin America, and particularly when they hire a software development agency. I think one of the things they don't sometimes fully appreciate is the fact that it's not just one person, it's a whole team. It's a whole company behind that person they're hiring. It's a CTO. It's like having like a, a fellow colleague of that person, you know, someone you can ask to, hey, I'm doing this. What are your thoughts? Right? It's like, oh, I'm trying to solve this problem. What do you think? Is this okay? Do you have any ideas? And you only get that working as a company, or having a company behind backing that person, and also providing the great culture and of course some perks, right? Uh, but I think that's something that's not fully appreciated, both from a technical side, but also from a culture and well-being of the developer.
Interesting. Uh, so going back to Bluo, Bluo is about connecting, right? So what do you think, or what role do personal relationships play your own personal success, and how have you used them to create these impactful partnerships through Bluo?
Um, as I mentioned before, I think it's all about giving and helping, and just actually enjoying being that connector, which I very much do. And then so you're having folks writing to me like day in and day out, asking me, hey, do you know this person, or do you know that person, or I'm looking to connect with this or that company, uh, or uh, and I really enjoy doing that. And once you've proved that you can make great connections, then people, it's a word of mouth thing, right? Um, but I enjoyed doing it like as a civil servant during those 5 years as consul general. I think in a way it was something innovative, because my mindset was at the time, like, the only way I can do a great job for my people and my companies in Uruguay is if I get to know, if I can have like the broadest network possible. So I was like, not just like building every day the network, but also really engage in the ecosystem, not only in the Bay Area, but also in LA, in Utah, Seattle, uh, Denver, all over the place. Um, and then you get to see that people kind of identify you with, okay, this guy is the one that's gonna help me with and connect me with the right person. And once you build that reputation, then you're just having inbound, contacts in a way, which makes it a bit easier. Um, but it's all about helping. It's all about giving. It's all about being there. And sometimes you think, oh God, I have to go to this meeting, or meet with this person, or go for lunch with this other person. It's like, oh no, I don't want to do it today. And then you go, and it turns out to be amazing. And you get to know great folks and building great connections, which end up in sometimes in great business. Uh, but yeah, I mean that's kind of the way I see it.
Interesting. We are almost about time already, so I'm going to ask you one last question, and maybe we can go through the chat and answer some of the questions from the viewers. So, for someone listening today, what would be one small action that I could take tomorrow to start building that bridge to Latin America?
Do you mean from the US side?
Yeah, I'm a company in the US. I want to explore this opportunity of Latin America. What should I do? Or what can I do tomorrow?
Well, they can either contact me or you. That's the first thing I do. Uh, um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's again, I think it's kind of hard to do the research, uh, because again, it's hard to find unbiased information in the web. Um, so if you have, if anyone is listening to this conversation, it would actually make sense to either reach out to you guys or to myself, and just have a conversation. Not We're not going to sell you anything. That's not the point. We want you to understand how things work and how we can be helpful for you, and ultimately how we be helpful to your business. Um, so I think that's the main point. Get to know people, uh, ask them, try different options. Um, that's what I would do. Yeah, essentially.
Great. Perfect. Let's see what's in the comments, and then they can start answering them. So I guess I'll go by order. So Sophia says, there you go. Thanks for the information. Quick question: which things should I consider when choosing a tech partner in Latin America?
I mean, I think it's again, we discussed this before, but it's what are you looking for first, and why do you need to, or why do you want to look for talent? First thing, is it convenient for you to do it in Latin America? Great. Are you looking for a great time zone? Great. You're looking for great talent? Check. Um, then these companies in Latin America are excellent across the board in working with different technologies. So that makes it even better, and kind of like a no-brainer in a way. Yeah.
Great. Second question by John: how do legal and compliance aspects of hiring Latin companies work for US companies?
That's a great question. One of the great things about hiring a LATAM company is that you don't take care of the payroll. You're not liable for that um, person that's working for your company. So it's the company in Latin America that's responsible from a legal and compliance side of things. Um, and also one interesting thing that I haven't mentioned is how company software development agencies, like yours, they are super aware and of the importance of cybersecurity and the legal aspects of compliance and IP. So that's something that's a question that often comes to the table, which of course it's of great importance for companies and deals.
Yeah, I can also shed some light on at least how we work. One of the most important things is that we are employee of record. So that means that we handle all the relationships and the contracts and all those aspects. So we make sure we are legal in every country we hire. And the other important part is that for the American company, it is a relationship with another company. So it's just a business transaction. And our employees are basically contractors. So there's no, one of the biggest risks if you do this yourself is that someone that you hire internationally could potentially be regarded as an employee instead of a contractor, and then you are potentially liable for that, right? So that's one of the things we help solve. So yeah, I hope I answered that one. So great. Mary has another question, which is, could you share 3 tips for identifying a good technology partner?
Well, track record. Find companies that have been working for U.S. companies already, which many already have. I mean, there are many companies, and then ask your, as I said, like this CEO of this big company in the U.S. told me, ask your fellow CEO what experience he has, and ask him if he can give you some advice. And then just don't be afraid to engage with these companies and have a conversation. Don't feel that they're gonna try to sell you or upsell you. That's normally not the case. Uh, have a conversation, interview possible candidates, talent, and I'd say those 3. It's all about it, and being open and willing to engage as well.
Don't be an introvert. So yeah, great. And then Gustavo, how do you see LATAM tech landscape evolving in the next 5 years? And what should US businesses do to stay ahead of these changes?
I mean, specifically, if we're talking about software development agencies, not getting into the startups field, is that something different? It will continue to grow for sure, because the need for talent is going to continue to grow, not just in the US but around the world. There are many of these companies in Latin America that also work for other Latin American companies, but also for companies in Europe. So the need for, despite AI and all the doomsday predictions, totally convinced that we'll need more talent in the next 5 years, because at the end of the day, AI will enable new developments and new startups and new companies and new features for which you will need more talent eventually. So I think talent is going to continue to be needed. And what can U.S. businesses do to stay ahead of these changes? I mean, it's just trying to find the right partner who to work with in Latin America. And once you find that, just grab onto that company. Because I've heard nothing but great experiences of U.S. companies, and one of the things I didn't mention is that we at the consulate we received around 80 companies, Uruguayan companies a year in the consulate in San Francisco that were visiting clients. And that for the size of the country of Uruguay, it's quite a number. And, every single one of these companies had great experience. And one of the things they care about the most is building this great relationship with their US partners. Why? Because it's all they've got. They have to do a great work. They have to do a great job in order to have that company in the US eventually, recommend it to some other company or CEO or CTO. So if they do a great job, the word of mouth will expand. And that's their reputation is their most important thing they have to take care of. So they'll go above and beyond. They'll go the extra mile in order to take care of that reputation, and then you will have be delivered a great service.
Yeah. If I had to also add a little bit to that, one of the things I do is I focus a lot on innovation. That's basically what I do at Palos. So the AI craze and this shift we're seeing in the technology industry specifically is quite interesting. And one of the things I guess people forget is that companies are companies and they are built by people, right? And they have inertia. The bigger the company, the longest and the more effort it takes to change. So even if OpenAI, Anthropic, or whoever comes with this great AI worker, and then all of a sudden companies start hiring their first AI employee, that change is not going to happen overnight, because you still have, there's contracts, there's legislation, there's laws, there's a lot of things that need to adapt to that, right? So if there's something is like we are gonna still be needing in the future is people. So if you have to pay attention to the tech landscape, I guess the most important thing you need to do to be able to stay ahead of these changes is really focusing on hiring really, really good people that can help you make the best decisions possible to navigate the changes that we're going to be seeing. So it's not a matter of when that happens, of if that's going to happen. It's like when, right? So I guess that's my personal view from dealing with this stuff every day. But yeah.
That is totally true. It's totally true.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you everyone for joining today, and thank you, Ignacio, for the great insights. I actually quite enjoy that. So yeah, if you have any doubts, please drop us a line. Happy to connect and happy to help you guys with anything you guys need. If not, we'll see you on the next time.
Thank you, Pablo. It was great being here.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming.